In today's tutorial, we're going to recreate my most popular PowerPoint tutorial, the animated tabs. Now, the reason why I'll be remaking this one is because a lot of you asked to slow it down. It was 2 years ago, I rushed things a little bit too much, so I want to go step by step this time. And secondly, a lot of you also asked how to recreate it in the older versions of PowerPoint. So for those of you who don't have Morph, there's still a way on how you can do this. And then a third point I want to add, because we're now further advanced and there's more things available, I also want to show you how to make it more interactive, so you don't have to go in a linear way. So let's see how we can do this. And as usual, we're starting from a blank slide. Now, first I want to go to the design tab, and here I want to change the color palette, of which you have the color codes. I'll put them on the screen, and then we're going to use that purple palette. Now I'm going to go to home and set the layout to blank. So we have nothing on the slide and we start from a clean slate. Right click, format background, and now we're going for gradient fill. Here I want to choose one of the presets. So I'm going for the dark preset with the lighter in the middle. You can always make it slightly lighter if you want. So if you want to have a lighter version, you can do that like this. So it sort of depends a little bit on how you want to do that. I'm going to set it to somewhere around this. So -22 on the brightness. So we have a light circle in the middle. And next we want to add our shape to the slide. So we're going to add a shape and drag it from the top left all the way to the bottom right. Not entirely to the corner, we're going to leave a small gap here. Remove the outline, and I'm going to give it a purple fill. I'll use this bright color so we see the contrast nicely with the background. Next, I'm going to go to shapes again and choose the rounded rectangle. Hold shift and drag to create a shape so we have a perfect square on each side, and then place it on the bottom right. I'm not going to place it entirely next to the other one, so not back to back, but I want to sort of overlap it so we don't have that rounded corner matching with the side. So this nicely flows. Now I'm going to give it the same shape fill, so the same color, and no outline. So this way we sort of create that little tap effect. I'm going to copy, so you can Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, or you can use the Option Shift Drag, or I think it's Alt-Shift or Control-Shift on Windows, and repeat it 4 times. Select them all, go to Arrange, and distribute vertically. And this way they automatically shift and are positioned on the same distance. So this is the base version for the 4 tabs that we have. Now what we're going to do is we're going to right click the slide, duplicate, so we create a duplicate, or you can use the shortcut Ctrl-D to create duplicates. Now I want to remove the tabs that I don't need, so only keep the top one here on the first one. On the second one, I'm just going to keep the second tab and repeat. So the third keeps the third, and then the fourth one, we leave only the bottom one. Now what we'll do is you can select both shapes, so either drag around them or hold shift while you click, go to shape format, and now you can do union. Now for those of you who work on the web version, if you work on the web version, you won't have shape or format shape and the union thing. Or if you work on the older version of PowerPoint, you also might not have that. What you can do instead is you can just group them. So they act as one group shape. That works as well. But I prefer to work with that union part. So we have one sheet or one shape to work with. So I'm going to repeat that for the others and just union. So we have 4 shapes in total now. So now we have created these shapes. What we want to do next is we want to add the text to the slides. And for that, we're going to go for a text box and here add a text box on the slide. We're going to type in our title. So I'm going to go for Lorem Ipsum and let's make it white. I'm going to use a nice font called Montserrat and then center it in the middle. Let's make it a little bit larger. So it's about 20, and we can also make it bold if we want. I'm going to copy that text box and here I'm going to type in 01. Select the text box and then I'm going to choose the largest font. Now, if this is not large enough for you, you can always type in manually, for example, 120 and press enter to make it larger. I want to sort of fade this one out. So I'm going to go to text options and set the transparency to around 50%. And now you can drag this one over if you want to overlap it to have a nice effect. We're going to add a text box below and add a little bit of dummy text in here. I'm going to use Lorem Ipsum. And also for this, I'm going to select the text box and use the font Montserrat. Make it white and maybe center it in the middle. You know what? Let's take a little bit less text, make it slightly smaller. So this way it nicely fits. If you don't like this overlapping part, you can always select the text box and place it higher or the other ones and play around with the positioning. You can always select all 3, arrange, align to center to nicely stack them up on top of each other. Hey, real quick, if you want to save some time while making your presentations, I also have a lot of templates available. With those easy drag and drop sessions, you'll save so much time in your presentation making. So you can use hundreds of pre-made templates and just fill them in seconds and have a great looking slide deck. Now, the cool thing is that you can also, in just a few clicks, adjust the entire look and feel to your branding. So you can change the fonts, you can change the colors, all to customize it in your branding in just a few clicks. So if you want to save a lot of time and want to use my expertise of 10 plus years of making slides, well, then you can also find all of the links in the description below. Let's get back to the tutorial. Now we're going to add a logo below. So go to Insert, Icons. You can use any logo that you want. So you don't have to use the built-in library, but you can. So let's type in plant, see what we find. Select a nice one here, put it to the slide. Let's make it a bit larger. And then we're going to drag it underneath the text. Now, if you want to give this the same color, what you can do is you can go to make it white, for example, or almost white. And then you can see that there's no gradient fill option. If you want to have that gradient fill option, what you can do is you have to select the icon and on the top left here, convert to shape. This one now converts it to separate shapes and this sort of unlocks the gradient fill. Go to gradient fill and now you can choose. So you can say, I want one part white and the other one sort of in that background color. And then we go to linear and play around with whichever style that you drag around the color shape a bit more, or you can give it a lighter color if you want, just like this. So we have that pretty nice effect where we have that faded effect on the icon. So this is how you could create that effect. What I'm going to do now is once we have this, I'm going to select all of the elements and then right click and group or use the shortcut Ctrl-G. I'm going to paste this on the other slides and then I'm just going to change the content. So here I type in 02, 03 on number 3 and then 04 on the fourth one. Now if you want to change the icons, that is also possible. And I'll show you a quick trick on how you can do it. So let's say you want a plant. Let's go for one bamboo. Let's go for a flower. And then this one here. So I'm going to select all three, drag around them. You can make them a bit larger so they nicely match with the other ones. So I'm going to do that like this. Spread them out and then spread them out next to each other. All three elements, go to graphics format, convert to shape. And now we drag around this icon here. We select that icon and we press Ctrl-Shift-C to copy the formatting. Drag around the others, Ctrl-Shift-V to paste the formatting all at once. Select the icon, just the icon only, Ctrl-X, and let's ungroup this first, and then paste the icon into place. Don't forget to remove the other one, just like this, and then we're going to repeat that for the others. So remove the icon, put the other one in place, and then repeat that for the final one, and put the icon in place. Now, of course, we want to group it again. I like to have these things grouped, especially since we're going to work with the animation. And then if a small mistake happens and the elements are not the same, it will not work as smoothly. So this is just some good practice if you want to have it work. Now we're almost getting there. Now let's finish the tabs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of a number here in the tab. And for that, I'm going to select this 01 box and give it sort of the background fill. So let's give it that background fill or the dark fill. And go to text options and remove the transparency. Let's make this a few ticks smaller. And also the text box, we're going to make it smaller. Let's maybe put it on 40. I think that fits nicely. And we just center it nicely in the middle of that box. Now, once we have this, we're going to repeat that for the others. And we do 02. We copy 03. And we do that one final time, which is 04. So now that we have made the tabs, let's have a look at the colors because we want to have that sort of gradient effect where the colors of the tabs are getting lighter each time. So let's do that now. And for that, we're going to sort of think about how we're going to structure this. Number 4, tab number 4 is going to be the bottom tab of our presentation. So for that, I want to have the darkest color. So I'm going to change the tab color, that shape that we have created. I'm going to change that to the darkest color that we have. We have 4 in total, so the background color, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to give it like this, and then give the text color the fill of the one just before. I'm going to go to number 3, change the tab color to 1 lighter, and then I'm going to give that font color also 1 lighter again. You might see this might not give enough contrast, so for that we can always maybe jump a few tones or choose one of the different ones here. And then for this one, we're going to go for the next tab, and then that lightest tone. And for this one, I think that one's good. And we're going to give it even a lighter version. Oops, that has to be the font color, just like this. So I think this one doesn't look too nice, so I'm going to make it a bit lighter. I think that works. Now, as a final finishing touch, we want to look at that shadow effect, because if we're going to stack them on top of each other, we also want that sort of layered effect, that paper layered effect. So let's do the shadows now. And for that, we're selecting the grouped part here. You can also do it, or the merged part. You can also do the group part. And we're going to the shape options, shadows, and then to the right. Now we're going to set the blur to, I'm going to use around 10 points, and transparency slightly lighter. So slightly more transparent, so it's lighter on the screen. So 75, blur 10%, and the distance can be 4 points. Now I'm going to set the same for the others. So to the right, 75, 10 points, and 4. And repeat for the others. So we're each going to the right, 75, 10 points, and 4. Now, of course, you can set the settings as you like. If you want to have more shadow or less shadow, you can just change it here. So I kind of like these settings, but it really depends on the colors that you're going to use and how you want the final result to look like. So now we have set the colors right, we want to look at stacking the tabs on top of each other. That's also a crucial part. And to make sure that we do it in a correct way, we're going to group all of the items together. So everything on one slide, the tab, the text, the icons, everything should be grouped in one package. That is important if you want to add the morph transition or the animations. Next, we're going to start stacking them. So we have the bottom one, number 4. We're going to select number 3, Ctrl X and Ctrl V to paste it on top. And then we're going to not place it entirely on top. We're going to drag it slightly to the left. So you see we're going across the border, that doesn't matter, but we're leaving some sort of a little gap in between. Ctrl X number 2, or cut that part just like this. And then we do it for the first one as well, and just like that. Now, if you want, you can always drag them a bit further apart. So leave some more gaps. That is all possible. Just make sure that you select the grouped items and not the one part. So I think like this, we have quite a nice effect. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to delete the initial slides. We no longer need those. And I'm going to select everything, hold Shift and drag it slightly downwards. This way we can see where the border is of that slide. And now I'm going to hold Shift again and drag it to the left. And now we just keep that same distance. So you see where I'm at. This is about the distance between each tab. I want to do that for the first one as well. So I'm going to keep it like this. Stop selecting or stop dragging, and then click again, hold Shift and drag it upwards. And this way it nicely matches to the border of the slide. So you see in the preview here, it's already nicely stacked, and that's the result that we want. So if I put this on full screen, you'll see that this is the result that we want. So we have the nice stacks and we have some room on the slide for some content. So for that, we're going to add a text box. And here we say slides. I'm going to use a different font, something nice, Bebels Neue, make it a large. So I'm going to go for 150 and make it bold. Center it in the middle and then sort of center it in the middle of that slide. So you now have to look at this part and sort of center it in that middle, not exactly in the middle of the slide, because then it will be sort of shifted to the left a little bit. We want to really center it in the middle of that open area. I'm going to go to text options, shadows, and then use a little bit of a drop shadow, add some blur, increase the transparency so it's less harsh, create a duplicate, and then here maybe font size 50. We do title, animated, and let's go for the nice font, Sign Painter, and make it in yellow, maybe a bit larger, few ticks larger, and we paste it on top. I'm going to add some distance to the shadow. So you see it's starting to overlap a little bit, and it's sort of creating that drop shadow on the word slides, which I kind of like. So it gives that 3D effect very subtly, but I kind of like that. Now I'm going to select these and send them to the back. So send all the way to the back. So you see that they disappear behind those tabs, and that is important. So now we have made our base version of the slide. And what we want to do is we want to animate it now. There's two ways you can do it. One with modern versions like Morph, or two with older versions of PowerPoint. And I'll show you both ways how to do it. Let's start with a Morph version, which is the easiest version. For that, I'm going to duplicate the slide and then on this one. And for that, I'm going to pull out the first tab. So hold Shift so you nicely can pull it out without any issues. You see that the text is now sort of hidden behind it. For that, I'm going to make it a few ticks smaller and then put it to the right, one larger, so it nicely fits here. Just make sure that you position it right, and maybe you can make the title smaller as well. The Morph will nicely take care of this. So that is pretty good. Now we're going to duplicate the slide once more, that duplicated slide already, and pull out the tab number 3. We're going to put it in the same position or similar position. That's what we want. Duplicate once more, repeat for tab number 2, and just keep the same distance, and repeat one final time for tab number 1, just like this. Hey, real quick, if you never want to make a bad slide ever again, I have a program available that teaches you all the fundamentals you need to know about slide design. So you'll know exactly how to take a bad slide and turn it into a great, impactful slide. So it works on keynotes, but it also works on these heavy, text-heavy slides like annual reports. It can work for anything. So if you want to learn that, you can find all the links in the description below. Let's get back to the tutorial. And just make sure that you leave enough room on the content so you can see the preview here, that everything remains visible, all of the content that you want. Now for good measure, I'm going to duplicate the original slide and place it at the bottom. So you see, we'll go in both ways. We'll open up the tabs and close up the tabs. Now I'm going to select all of the slides, go to transitions, and now we're going to play this one already and preview. So here we can see the tabs, and as soon as I click, the tabs will nicely shift out. The text on the right, it will shrink a little bit, and then we will have the other tabs. Once you click, you will have them nicely appear from the side. Now the cool thing is you can also go back. So if you want to go back the tab, you can always do that, or you can just go forward again. And then at the end, everything will nicely shift and the title will appear again. So this is how you would do it with Morph, which is quite cool. Now, once we are in Morph, I also want to show you that interactive element. So now we go in a linear way from 4, 3, 2, 1, all the way to open or close. And we can also do that in a different way. So let me show you how to do that. And for that, we're going to select one of the elements here. And then, for example, this grouped item. So if we select the grouped part, we go to insert, you see link is now grayed out. What we can do is we can select the merged shape of the tab. So you see this one here. I'm going to Ctrl Z, but that's the shape I'm talking about. So select that one. And you see now the link is not grayed out anymore. It's like opened up. Go to this document. And then we go for a slide, and we want to go step number 4. So we want to go to slide number 2. And if we repeat that, so here as well, we select tab number 3 and we go to slide number 3. We do the same for number 2 and we go to slide number 4 in this case. And then the original one, oops, don't mess it up with the position. And then we go to slide number 5, just like that. So if I now click on preview, you can see that as soon as I hover over one of the tabs, the cursor changes. And the cursor becomes that clickable change. So if I now click on, for example, number 3, that will pull out number 3, which is quite cool. The cool thing is if you want to go home again, what I like to do is go for the home tab, home, or let's do house, and select this nice icon of a house. Put that in the bottom right. Let's make that white. And then we link this one to for either first slide or slide number 1. And then I'm going to paste that on all the other slides. This one doesn't need it because it's already there. And now if we click on, for example, slide number 2, it will pull out all the slides for number 2. And if we go to this one, we click on home, it goes back to the home tab. I'll probably have to put that on full screen. So if you open up slide number 2, you go to that home tab and you can go to slide number 3 and then click on the home tab again. Now you see if we're on, let's say we're on slide number 1, the tabs are no longer clickable. And that's because we have to re-add that. We have to add that for every slide. So if you're on this slide, what you could do is you could just repeat the process. So select number 3 and then link that to slide number 3, which is 3 in this case. And then that one will become clickable. So you see if I now preview this, the only one that cursor changes is on number 3. And that's because we have linked that one. So you can do this for whichever slides that you want. It's a couple of minutes work to do it for the other slides, but that's how you could create that interactivity in your presentation. So now that you know how to do the interactivity, let's have a look at how you can do the animation part for the older versions of PowerPoint, because that's also something which is very important. And for that, I'm going to start with the neutral slide or the first slide. So I'll just create a duplicate, and these ones are the Morph ones. We're going to ignore those for now. We're just going to work with this starting button or this starting slide again. And for that, I'm going to select the grouped part, and that's why it's important that we group everything, and then go to animations, and then we're going to a path animation and go for line. You see now it's shifting downwards. We don't want that. We want to have it to the right. So we set the path to the right, and now we're going to select that. So you see if I zoom in, you see very small, like a green arrow and a red arrow. And that is the beginning and the end state. So if we select that green arrow, we can drag it to the right, and we sort of see it in semi-transparent. So we want to position that in the correct way. So for that, I'm going to do that and then release it, go to animation pane, and this happens on a click. So if I preview this, I see the opening slide, and as soon as I click, the tab gets pulled out. Now we might want to sort of give the same animation to the title here. So for that, without making it too complicated, I'm going to reduce the size of this from the start. group the items, animation to the right, and I also shift this one to the right as well. So I'm going to shift that one to the right, only the red part, so that it also nicely adjusts. And I'm going to do this one with previous. So we see, as soon as I click now, both of them will move to the side. So we have that tab coming up and we have the animated slides also moving to the side. And you can just repeat this for the others. Let's see if I can do a animation painter and then paste it on number 3, which is pretty convenient. Animation painter, paste it on number 2. And you can see it already previews, so that's a good sign. Animation painter and then number 1. And since we use the same increments, I don't think we need to change that much. So they're all on click, which is good, except for the title that goes automatically with the first one. So let's see if we preview this and we now click, first tab pulls out, which is pretty good. We click again, we have the second tab and it nicely positions. So all the intervals are exactly the same and that's exactly how we want this. So now you know how to do it with the newer versions, but also the older versions of PowerPoint. Now, in case the morph effect isn't working for you and it's sort of fading, what you can do, it's usually one of two things. First of all, the grouped items are not the same between slides, or the layer order. And I'll show you quickly how you could spot that or fix that. So let me drag the animated slides to the bottom, and now we're working with the morph ones, so the first ones. Let's say I group an extra item. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items on the slide. And yeah, 7th one you could say, but let's say 6 items on the slide. If I were to group them differently between slide 1 and slide 2, it will not work, it will not fade. So I'm going to group slide or tab 3 and 4. I'm going to just group them together on one slide and then see how it does. So if I now play this, it will fade and jump to that part. And that is because PowerPoint doesn't recognize what's happening with those grouped items. So if the grouped items are different, it will not work. You can see the same if I've ungrouped everything now. So we're back at the start. And if I group, for example, this title here on the second slide, but not on the first, so here it's 2 boxes, but here it's one grouped part, you'll see that that is the part that will fade out a little bit. So you see that will fade and then fade in again, because PowerPoint doesn't know what the connection is between 2 slides. So you have to make sure that the grouped items are exactly the same. And the same thing happens if your layer order is different. Now in our case, it's quite convenient to see that we have tab 1, 2, 3, and 4. But if I, for example, send this one to the back and I play it and I do the animation, it will sort of do a weird thing as well. So usually when your morph isn't working, it's one of those 2 things. So thanks a lot for watching. I really hope you liked this tutorial. Definitely let me know in the comments below if you have any questions. And if you want to learn more about PowerPoint, make sure to watch the video on screen right now.